So both stories start with similar themes. Boy goes missing, government hiding ominous and creepy experiments at the Hawkins lab and the Wyndon nuclear plant. Now, while Dark follows the same color themes all throughout, Stranger Things breaks that consistently, which I was quite fine with it initially, but as the seasons progress, it gets too much. And I'm really scared of horror stuff usually, and I don't really watch it, but I made an exception for Stranger Things. In the first season, I remember being scared shitless watching the Demogorgon snatch up Will. The jump scares and the ominous feeling that they tried to create was so on point. But in the last seasons, you can feel everything looks tacky and cheap, and color themes only made it worse. Especially Vecna's suit, I mean, what's up with that? You can tell they significantly reduced the quality, which is weird because they made so much money from the initial seasons. The budget for season 4 was $240 million and for season 5 was $480 million, so what was really going on? Where did all that money go? And at the same time, they managed to keep the show relevant and hyped up for about 10 years, so like more money. I mean, come on, kids and adults were alike invested in this so much, calling it this generation's Harry Potter. So now it looks like a very corporatized aesthetic, like a Target ad. Which is funny because Target did an ad with Stranger Things starring Ted Wheeler. Now, I do appreciate the Marvel-like American humor in these shows, but now it's getting way too corny, and you can tell some of it was probably written by ChatGPT.
If you touch Dustin again, I'll kick them so hard they'll pop like water balloons.
I say kick away. Stop this meathead from reproducing and further infecting the world with his unique brand of idiocy.
So it was refreshing to see that Dark was having none of this corny humor. Now, while Dark was being consistent and continuous with their storylines, Stranger Things decided to break that too. Even though there were a lot of timeline switches in Dark, and I mean a lot, surprisingly they managed to keep it continuous. They might have used the bottom-up approach where they wrote the ending first and then built everything around it. The creators had said that it was a perfect 3-season show and they had planned all the time travel details and switches in the beginning itself. It also perfectly stands with the 3-dimensional time model of that show. And that was so satisfying. Meanwhile, Stranger Things didn't seem like they were sure about any of that climax. Like, they suddenly have so many new characters introduced in the very last season. Like, why? We were already familiar with characters like Eleven, Mike, Dustin, and Will, and suddenly it felt like they were being replaced by characters like Derek, Holly, and others. Steve had an entire 2 seasons for his character arc to develop from bad to good, while Derek went from dipshit Derek to delightful Derek in a few episodes. And all of this felt very rushed. And whatever happened to the upside down air being toxic? Another sad thing is that we never got to know what happened to Susie and Dustin, because it is assumed that they probably broke up because Dustin was going through the grief of losing Eddie Munson. I was very invested in this relationship and this made me very sad, and I could have gotten some closure, okay? Also, somehow Hopper, Joyce, and the likes seem to have realized Vecna went to high school with them. And we never get to see the backstory of Kali, which, again, I was very invested in. That must have happened off-screen too. I thought that we would get to see all their high school beefs, but that didn't happen either. Dr. K must have been Dr. Brenner's replacement to clean up his mess, but we don't really know. At this point, 90% of the show happened off-screen. Don't ask me, okay? Also, I don't really know what was the reason for Nancy and Jonathan to be breaking up. Again, I really liked that relationship. I wasn't a big fan of Jonathan though, since initially he was using his camera to creep up on people. But the way they made that breakup the most confusing thing on this show, it really pissed me off because are you breaking up or not? Also, by the end of that scene, I genuinely thought Jonathan was dying. But guess what? He didn't, so my bad. But the thing I liked the most about this show was the scene where Vecna appears and how Will realized his potential and took care of all the Demogorgons while fighting the military. This was so adrenaline-inducing and genuinely hyped me up for the rest of the show. In Dark, the death of the priest Noah and other pivotal characters like Helga added so much depth to the show. In fact, the show even starts with the death of Michael Conwald, who in the present is Mikkel Nielsen, creates so much intrigue for the rest of the show. While in Stranger Things, during the last season, when the Demogorgon attacked Karen, I thought the showrunners really took a leap and killed her off. But she didn't die, my bad. Seriously, the plot armor for every single person in this season was insane, but they ruined the writing for Kali and killed her. But it's okay because we weren't attached to her much, isn't it? Also, we need to look at the social media fans a bit. When they killed off Bob and Alexei, there was this massive craze online run by fans who kept saying that if Elle dies, we're throwing hands, and this was the case for most other characters. I think the Duffer Brothers were trying to appease everybody by not killing anybody, and now everybody is disappointed. In Dark, when the main characters Martha and Jonas, when they realized that they have to go to the beginning of the timeline and end it, the showrunners made sure that there is no way that this loop would get restarted, and they simply get reduced to stardust. There is no hint to a restart, so there is a finality to this. But in Stranger Things, they tried to insert this kind of alternate ending where Elle might be at this waterfall like she always wanted, and this just really pissed me off. But I did like one of those theories where they say that all of them died and they're all inside Vecna's pod having a good dream and happily living their fantasies. They also tried to do this ending where they can make it into a situation that if they want to do a sequel, they can come back and pick right up. Even though for now they've said that they're really ending the show. The greed never ends, my friend. The greed never ends. And the show not tell way of cinema is also not done properly by the way they keep repeating the same thing over and over, especially the plan. And it truly feels like they're simply trying to drag out those episodes.
You know, you could talk to me, right? And I'm not a kid anymore.
Will, I am still your mother.
Doesn't mean you know what you're doing.
None of you have seen The Great Escape? Well, basically, it's about these POWs, right? And they're stuck in a barracks just like this one, and they need
what I hope to be a gentle 30 miles an hour, which will allow
You and Harrington to follow along in the right side up. Just remember, try and keep the telemetry signal within
-60 and -70 dB.
So when the Abyss and Hawkins collide,
They become one.
He's remaking the world.
Maybe we could put our heads together and try to figure it out, but it'll probably take
Days that we don't have.
So if we find this dark magic shield generator,
we destroy the wall.
Find Vecna, save Holly.
Medals for all.
I mean, they'll know where Will is.
where the kids are.
They might even know what he's planning.
That's Endgame.
In Dark, you can see and understand that Elizabeth is Charlotte's daughter without them having to say anything outright. And in the scene where they open the portal and realize that the mother and daughter are looking at each other is so chef's kiss. The difference in years and timeline gives it so much depth. By the way, did you know that these days Netflix encourages the storylines to be less complicated and Wattpad slop-like? Because they know a lot of people watch TV while simultaneously scrolling through their phones, so they want people to be able to understand the story even when they're just randomly paying attention to it. And this is called the second screen theory. Except Netflix and Stranger Things team forgot how much this show was hyped and how many people were excited to see the show even after 10 years of waiting. Now, one thing I do want to defend about the show is Will's coming out story. I know a lot of people thought this was corny and annoying and too lengthy. You need to realize that he was anxious about this in a different timeline. People were not accepted for being different during this era, and this was probably his last chance because if they lost, they would be dead. So to him, this was like, if I had one last thing to say before I die, this would be it, and I honestly liked it. The final and last episode of Stranger Things was really sad, not because it was ending, but because there were no Demogorgons left and Vecna and the Mind Flayer were fought off together. Like, the Mind Flayer had so much potential to be something even bigger. The whole set and props for this really looked cheap, and so did the CGI. The final fight looked like some Power Rangers type shit was going on. I understand that they wanted every character to have their own thing, but that main character energy that Elle had going on for her was too spread out to other characters, and the whole thing looked super messy. By the end, Elle ended up looking like the least important character. Overall, this is an okay show considering how good the initial seasons were, but whenever I watch season 1, it feels like they could have wrapped up the show in 1 or 2 seasons, but given Netflix, I guess we should be grateful that at least they didn't cancel it. Oh, by the way, the Duffer Brothers' new show, The Burrows, has been cancelled. I guess this wraps up my frustration, so see ya.